Hi everyone, welcome back to Marriage is Not the End. Today's story might sting for some people, and it might wake others up. Today's story is about a girl who spent 7 years loving one person. 7 years is long enough for a baby to learn to walk, learn to talk, and then put on a backpack and walk into elementary school. 7 years is also long enough for a relationship to go from burning hot to ice cold, from talking about everything to having nothing left to say. The woman in our story is named Emma. She has a boyfriend she's been with for 7 years, Jason. Everything began at Emma's best friend's wedding. That day, Emma was the maid of honor. During the liveliest moment of the ceremony, the bride turned her back to the crowd and threw the bouquet over her shoulder. The bouquet traced a perfect arc through the air and landed, steadily, right in Emma's hands. For a second, the entire room fell silent. Then the crowd burst into playful cheers and applause. As if rehearsed, everyone's eyes turned in the same direction, toward where Jason was standing. In everyone's imagination, Jason was supposed to walk forward, take the bouquet, drop to one knee, and propose to Emma. It's the most common scene at weddings, the perfect fairy tale ending. But Jason didn't move. He just stood there, expressionless. People around him started nudging him. Someone laughed and shouted, "Go on, man." Pushed forward by the crowd, he eventually ended up standing in front of Emma. Emma held the bouquet in her hands, her eyes shining. Her heart was pounding as she looked at Jason, waiting for him to say the words she had been waiting 7 years to hear. Jason looked at her. Then, under everyone's gaze, he said, "Sorry." Just 2 words. No explanation. No follow-up. After saying it, he turned around and walked away, disappearing through the crowd and out of the banquet hall. Emma stood there alone on the stage, holding the bouquet that was supposed to symbolize happiness, like an outsider listening to the awkward whispers around her. She smiled, the kind of polite smile meant to keep anyone else from feeling uncomfortable. That night, when she got home, she sent Jason a text. "I'm home." A long time later, Jason replied, "Something came up at work. A client showed up unexpectedly. Just take a cab home." Emma replied with one word, "Okay." This had already become their pattern of conversation. No matter what happened, they followed the same routine: check-in, explanation, end of discussion. Jason did have one virtue: he never hid anything from Emma. And the name that appeared most often in his schedule was Crystal. Crystal was his secretary. They traveled together for business, met clients together, went to the airport together. Every time, Jason would tell Emma, "Not coming home tonight. Business trip with Crystal." Emma never fought about it, at least not at first. She told herself it was work. It was normal. But later she realized that out of every 10 conversations she had with Jason, 7 somehow revolved around Crystal. It wasn't that she never made a fuss. She did, dozens of times. They had argued countless times. And Jason's responses were so predictable she could recite them by heart. "It's just work. She's my secretary, purely professional. The company wouldn't run without her. You're overthinking. Stop being so petty." Those words became a wall that blocked everything Emma wanted to say. On the ride home from her friend's wedding, Emma took a cab. The driver was a warm, talkative middle-aged man. Seeing her come out of the hotel smelling like alcohol, he kindly warned her, "You've had quite a bit to drink, haven't you? When we get there, do you want to call someone from home to pick you up?" Emma shook her head. There was no one to pick her up. She rolled down the car window and let the wind hit her face. Looking out at the night view of Los Angeles, neon lights sliding past one after another, she suddenly thought of the year she graduated from college. That year, she wore a wedding dress she had designed herself and took graduation photos with Jason. Jason had even brought her to meet the dean and said with a smile, "This is the most precious gift of my life." Back then, everyone believed they would get married as soon as they graduated. But 7 years had passed. That wedding dress had long been buried at the bottom of a box, and that promise was something no one mentioned anymore. She asked herself, if I marry him, and life still looks like this, would I still want to? Eating alone. Sleeping alone. Handling every emotion alone. Would she still want to marry Jason? That night, for the first time, Emma began to question whether she even wanted to marry him anymore. The next morning, Emma was woken up by a phone call from her best friend. Her name was Maggie, the bride from yesterday's wedding. Maggie sounded furious on the phone. "Emma, the more I think about it, the more it bothers me. What was Jason trying to do yesterday? You've been together for 7 years, he can't even give you a straight answer?" Emma was silent for a long time. She didn't know how to answer. Because honestly, she didn't know what Jason meant either. Just then, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Jason. "Company annual party tonight. I'll pick you up. Emma stared at the message, slightly surprised. Jason rarely brought her to company events. She knew this was his way of making up for things. Jason had always been like this. Whenever there was a problem between them, he would notice it quickly and fix it as fast as possible. Their conflicts never lasted longer than 3 days. Jason had a routine for it: apologize, explain, compensate, then assume the problem was solved. If Emma kept arguing after that, Jason would look at her with that expression, as if to say, what exactly are you being unreasonable about? He never understood that relationships aren't like work. Work can be about efficiency. It can follow procedures. Love doesn't work that way. Emma replied with one word: okay. She started getting dressed, doing her makeup, carefully making herself look perfect. From head to toe, everything was exactly the way Jason liked it: a fitted little black dress, elegant high heels, flawless makeup. Standing in front of the mirror, she looked at herself, but she couldn't smile. She waited downstairs for a long time, but Jason's car never came. He didn't reply to messages. He didn't answer calls. In the end, Emma had to take a cab there herself. By the time she arrived at the hotel, the annual party had already begun. The banquet hall was lively. People were chatting in small groups. Emma stood alone in a corner. She didn't know anyone there, and she had no idea where Jason was. Then she saw him. Jason walked in through the entrance with Crystal on his arm. Crystal was wearing a red evening gown, her curled hair falling over her shoulders, smiling brightly and confidently. The moment they appeared, they became the center of attention. Moving through the crowd, Crystal naturally handed Jason drinks, leaned close to whisper something in his ear, and the two of them exchanged knowing smiles. Emma stood in the corner watching the scene. Her first reaction wasn't anger. It was, they look good together. They really did look good together. Eventually, they came near where Emma was standing. Someone noticed her and casually said, "Oh, this must be Jason's girlfriend. No wonder he's so successful at such a young age, he's got such a beautiful, supportive partner." For a few seconds, the people around them fell quiet. Everyone in the company knew Jason had a girlfriend of 7 years, but the woman who usually accompanied him to events was always Crystal. When Crystal heard the comment, she covered her mouth and laughed softly, leaning even closer against Jason. Jason didn't push her away. He simply changed the subject without drawing attention to it, then walked past Emma with Crystal and continued greeting other people. Emma lowered her head and took out her phone. Only then did she see the messages Jason had sent earlier. Had an emergency meeting with Crystal just now, got delayed. Did you get here yet? Where are you? Why aren't you replying? Never mind. If you didn't come, then don't bother. Emma looked at the messages, then looked up at Jason and Crystal walking side by side in the crowd. She wasn't angry. Not really. She just felt a little ridiculous. She sent Maggie a message: "Are you free? Want to grab a drink, wine glass?" That night, Emma showed up at the bar near Maggie's house still wearing her elegant evening dress. When Maggie saw her, she burst out laughing. "Oh my God, are you here to walk the red carpet or something?" Emma didn't say a word. She took the drink Maggie handed her and finished it in one gulp. Maggie was already a little drunk. She wrapped an arm around Emma and said, "You know what? I liked the old you better." The Emma who would be halfway through a painting and not even notice she had paint all over her face. Emma looked down at herself. Perfect curls. A fitted dress. Custom-made high heels. She suddenly thought of who she used to be in college. Back then, she studied fashion design. She and Maggie were known in the art department as the crazy duo. They would stay up all night drawing designs, argue for hours over a tiny detail, then go grab hot dogs from a street stand and laugh without a care in the world. Back then, she wore whatever felt comfortable, whatever made her happy. But now, from head to toe, everything about her was exactly the way Jason liked it. Maggie grabbed her shoulders and shook her lightly. Think about it, everything you do every day. Is there even one thing you do purely for yourself? Emma froze. She thought about it for a long time before protesting stubbornly. When I was chasing Jason, wasn't I completely devoted to? Maggie rolled her eyes. If I'd known things would turn out like this, I never would have helped you chase him. Yes, Emma was the one who pursued Jason. Back then, Jason was the untouchable star of the business school. Brilliant, handsome, but always carrying that cold, distant aura that said don't come near me. Rumor had it that the line of people who had tried to date him could stretch from the dorm building to the classroom building. But not a single one had succeeded. Emma did. To be fair, Emma was impressive too. Shortly after joining the art department, she had already won several design awards and became known as the department's little genius. At first, she didn't even like Jason. She thought he was boring, always talking about numbers and models, cold and analytical, nothing artistic about him. Until that art exhibition. One of Emma's paintings caught the eye of a wealthy, pot-bellied businessman. The man bragged about how rich he was while belittling her work. "It's just a student's painting," he said dismissively. "Nothing special. I'll give you $300 and take the whole batch. How about it?" The professor organizing the exhibition looked uncomfortable. The man had influence, and it wasn't wise to offend him. But Emma was young and fiery. She couldn't stand it. She immediately stormed off to grab some paint. If she had to destroy the painting rather than sell it to someone like that, so be it. But when she came back holding the paint, the businessman was already gone. Jason was standing in front of the painting, holding a cup of coffee. Emma stared at him in surprise. "What did you say to him?" Jason handed her a tissue so she could wipe the paint off her hands, then said calmly, "I told him the painting was about a woman discovering her husband's affair. After hearing that, he didn't want it anymore." Emma looked at him curiously. "How did you figure that out?" Jason smiled faintly. "I analyzed it." That was the moment Emma fell for him. If someone could understand her painting, she believed, then he must be able to understand her too. But now, did Jason still understand her at all? That night, Emma helped the drunk Maggie out of the bar. Her high heels were unsteady on the pavement, and she almost fell. "Careful." Someone caught her from the side. After steadying herself, Emma looked up, and froze. "Emma," the man said first, then laughed openly. "Sure, I had a buzz cut back then, but it's a little harsh if you can't recognize me. We pulled all-nighters together, remember?" Emma watched him push his bangs back. The familiar teasing tone and expression finally made her smile. "Luke? Please call me Roland," he said jokingly. "I'm in the international scene now." Luke casually put an arm around her shoulders and introduced her to the group of friends beside him. They were clearly all artists. One foreign guy took one look at Emma and immediately shouted, "Emma? You're Roland's muse." Luke glanced at Emma awkwardly and playfully shoved the guy before saying, Yes, this is the muse I always talk about. The real one, right here." The people around them started cheering and teasing. Luke had been Emma's classmate in college. He also studied design. After graduation, he moved to Paris and started his own fashion brand. This time he had returned to expand his business. Emma was chatting with Luke when her phone suddenly rang. It was Jason. "Where are you? Why aren't you home yet?" Even through the noise of the bar, his voice sounded clear. Emma glanced at her phone and realized he had already called several times and sent many messages. "I'm with Maggie," she said. "She's drunk. I'm taking her home." "Where are you?" "I'll come pick you up." He sounded a little anxious. That was rare. In 7 years, Emma had hardly ever seen Jason worry about her. "That's okay. I'll just take a cab home," Emma said instinctively. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Before she could say anything else, Jason hung up. Emma checked the map on her phone. From their place to the bar was at least a 30-minute drive. How could he get here in 20? Whatever. Waiting was nothing new to her. Luke sent his friends away so he could talk with Emma alone. As he looked at her, there was something different in his eyes. "You know when they call you my muse?" "That's actually true," Luke said, swirling his drink. "I came back this time to start a business. So, what do you think? Want to join me? Relive those all-night design sessions from back in the day?" Emma looked at the spark in his eyes. It was the kind of light she envied, the light of someone with goals, passion, and drive. She was about to respond when her phone rang again. "Come out. I'm at the door." Emma said goodbye to Luke and walked out of the bar. The moment she reached the entrance, a hand suddenly grabbed her and pulled her into a firm chest. "Emma, what are you doing?" Jason stood in front of her, shielding her behind him, his gaze cold as he looked at Luke, who had followed her outside. Luke's friends quickly gathered around, and the atmosphere turned tense. Emma shot Luke a pleading look. Luke understood immediately and hurried to stop his friends, explaining that it was all just a misunderstanding. Jason's expression softened slightly, though it remained cold. Luke broke the awkward silence and extended his hand. "I'm Luke, Emma's college classmate." Jason shook his hand but said nothing. Seeing Emma looking a little uncomfortable in Jason's arms, Luke added apologetically, "Sorry, I just got back from abroad. Guess I've gotten a little too casual." "Are you Emma's husband?" Jason's face darkened even more. Coldly, he replied, "That's between the two of us. Outsiders don't need to worry about it." Then he grabbed Emma and started walking away. When they reached the car, Emma finally pulled her hand free. She turned back and noticed Maggie still behind them. "Luke," she called out. "Can you help bring Maggie over?" Jason's grip on her wrist tightened again. When Luke helped Maggie over, Emma took her and instinctively got into the back seat with her. Jason sat in the driver's seat and looked at Emma through the rearview mirror. His voice was icy. So now you're going out drinking in the middle of the night, getting involved with other men, and you won't even sit in the passenger seat anymore? Emma said nothing. She was just tired. Luke was still standing beside the car, setting Maggie's bag down. Hearing Jason's words, he quickly tried to smooth things over. Jason, really, it's just old classmates catching up. Nothing else. Suddenly Jason got out of the car and slammed the door so hard it echoed through the street. He walked up to Luke and said slowly, word by word, "That's enough for tonight. Emma and I are going home." He emphasized the words going home heavily. Then he walked past Luke, pulled Emma out of the back seat, and put her into the passenger seat, even fastening her seatbelt for her. And that was when Emma noticed something. In the gap beside the passenger seat, there was a lipstick. The shade wasn't hers, but she recognized the brand. It was the brand Crystal always used. Jason followed her gaze and saw the lipstick too. He paused for a moment before saying, "On the last business trip, Crystal spilled her bag. It probably fell out then." Emma didn't respond. She simply looked straight ahead at the road. She said she's an employee, and sitting in the back would be disrespectful, so that's why she sat in the front. "It won't happen again. Pull over at the next left," Emma cut him off. "Maggie's place is just up ahead. I'm taking her upstairs." Jason slammed on the brakes. "Emma, did you hear me? I said I won't let Crystal sit in the passenger seat again." Emma got out of the car, grabbed Maggie's bag, and gave him a small smile. "It's fine. I don't mind." Without waiting to see how Jason reacted, she helped Maggie into the apartment complex. When she came back, the lipstick was gone. There was a faint smell of rubbing alcohol in the car, but underneath it was a stronger scent, perfume. Crystal's usual perfume. Some things, once they've happened, can't be wiped away in a moment. That night, traffic was heavy. Message after message came in from Luke, all about the possible collaboration. Emma opened the files he had sent. Along with the business plan, what caught her attention most were the design sketches. Those sketches made her heart race. She hadn't felt that way in a very long time. Luke sent another message, "So? Want to give it a shot? I'll give you 1 collection and 1 month. If your designs make the cut, you'll come in with a technical stake in the business, and the bonus definitely won't be small." Emma was tempted. She finally understood why she envied Luke and Maggie. Because they had something they loved. Something they were passionate about. Something they were chasing. And she had lost that part of herself a long time ago. "Emma. Emma. Emma." Jason called her name several times before she finally snapped back to reality. "We're here." Emma put away her phone, got out of the car, and walked straight into the house. Jason stood behind her, watching, without moving for a long time. That night, after Emma came out of the shower, she found Jason lying in bed. She couldn't even remember how long it had been since they had last slept in the same bed. Jason was always getting home late, and she had gotten used to sleeping alone. She frowned, but lay down anyway. Jason fell asleep quickly, but Emma tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She was so used to sleeping alone that having someone beside her now felt strange. She carefully got up, wanting to go to the living room for some melatonin. Jason woke up and pulled her back onto the bed. "Where are you going?" "Can't sleep. I'm going to get some melatonin." Jason looked at her, his expression complicated. "So now, sleeping next to me means you need melatonin just to fall asleep?" He turned his head away, let go of her, got up, and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Lying there alone, Emma suddenly thought of another night from before. Jason had come home drunk, reeking of perfume, with lipstick marks on him. She had complained once, and the very next day Jason moved his things into another room. He never understood that she wasn't angry because he came home late after drinking. She was angry because the person who had brought him home was Crystal. The next morning, when Emma woke up, Jason had already left. Breakfast was waiting on the table, steak and juice. Emma looked at it and thought about how what she really wanted was soy milk and fried dough sticks. But she said nothing. Instead, she messaged Maggie to ask about Luke's startup. Maggie replied quickly, "It's a real opportunity. Luke's actually pretty well known in the industry. But you haven't touched design in years, so honestly, your skills are probably rusty." Emma knew that. She really had lost a lot. Back in college, hand-drawn design was popular. But now everyone used professional software, and there were plenty of tools and processes she didn't even understand anymore. Maggie sent another message. As luck would have it, the community college nearby just opened a fashion design class. "Come stay at my place. You can take classes at night, and during the day I'll help you cram. Emma looked at the message and, without hesitating, started packing. Just then, Jason called. I'm going on a business trip for the next few days. I'm going alone. Okay. I'm going to stay at Maggie's for a few days too. This time Crystal's not coming. I left her at the office. After this, I'm thinking about transferring her to another department. Jason, you don't need to explain any of this to me, Emma cut in. Hasn't Crystal always been your secretary? If you suddenly replace her, you probably won't be used to it anyway. There was a long silence on the other end. Emma, when I get back, we need to talk. Emma hung up, pulled her suitcase behind her, and walked out the door. Of course she knew what Jason wanted to talk about. He had always been sharp. He knew exactly where the problem was. But every time before, he had chosen to blame her for being unreasonable. And she had believed him. She really had believed she was making too much of everything. But now she understood, it wasn't that he didn't get it. It was that he didn't want to. Life at Maggie's passed quickly. During the day, Emma crammed the basics. At night, she went to class. Then she stayed up late finishing assignments. She buried herself in design drafts, and suddenly Jason, Crystal, none of it mattered anymore. Whenever Maggie saw her with messy hair and dark circles under her eyes, she laughed so hard she bent over. This is the Emma I know. For the first time, Emma felt like life might actually be different. A month later, she brought her design portfolio to Luke. He looked through every page carefully, then gave her an apologetic look. Emma, this isn't quite there. Emma already knew. She had a pretty good sense of it herself. Just as she was about to stand up and thank him anyway, Luke motioned for her to sit back down. To be honest, these designs are pretty good. You haven't touched design in all these years, so the fact that you got to this level honestly surprised me. But you and my other designers all lack the same thing, vitality. Luke looked at her. Are you free tonight? I want to take you somewhere. Emma hesitated. Because Jason was coming back from his business trip that night, and he had said they should have dinner together. If this had been the old Emma, she would have cancelled everything and gone to see Jason, thrilled and eager. But now, all of a sudden, it felt like Jason mattered less than her designs. Luke hadn't rejected her completely. That meant there still might be a chance. She nodded. Then she sent Jason a message. Something came up tonight. I can't have dinner with you. I texted you this morning, but maybe you didn't see it. A long time later, Jason replied, what is it? I can wait for you. Emma froze for a second when she saw the words wait for you. For 7 years, she had always been the one waiting for him. Waiting for him to get off work. Waiting for him to come back from trips. Waiting for him to have time for her. He had almost never waited for her. No need. You just got back from your trip, so you should go home and rest. After sending that message, she got into Luke's car. The place Luke took her was her old university. That night was the opening of the art school summer exhibition. The moment Emma stepped into the venue and saw those young faces, those bold and untamed works of art, she suddenly understood what Luke had been trying to show her. Her own work was too restrained, too careful. It had no vitality, no energy. Back when she was winning awards in college, it wasn't because her technique was mature. It was because she had that fearless confidence, that raw drive of someone who didn't know enough to be afraid yet. She thanked Luke sincerely. Thank you. I know what the problem is now. Luke smiled, then gave her a little push into the crowd. They had arrived just in time for a live art challenge. Luke shoved a box of paints into her hands and shouted, if you win, I'll approve your designs. Go for it, my muse. Emma stood in front of the canvas, holding a brush, staring at the blank white surface. The cheers around her grew louder and louder. Maybe it was the electric atmosphere. Maybe it was because she missed so badly the fearless, high-spirited version of herself she used to be. Emma took a deep breath and began to paint. The theme was self. As she painted, she thought about everything that had happened over the years. At first, she meant to paint a portrait of herself, but as the brush moved, Jason's figure appeared on the canvas instead. Jason, in my heart, am I still just the version of myself that existed in relation to you? Emma stopped painting and looked at the picture, dissatisfied. No. That wasn't it. Jason is Jason. I am me. I can only be myself. She twisted her loose hair up with a pencil, just like she used to do in college. Then, as fast as she could, she began sweeping paint across the canvas. For those 10 minutes, Emma couldn't hear anything except her own heartbeat. Time's up. Emma stopped painting and looked at the finished piece. In the background was a blurred image of Jason, with a big red X painted across his face. And above him, clear and firm, was her own figure, standing strong. In the end, Emma won 3rd place. Luke helped her down from the stage and let her cry against his shoulder. People around them were still joking, saying the guy with the big red X in the painting must be Luke. Emma laughed through her tears and punched him lightly. Just then, a bouquet was held out in front of her. It was hydrangea, endless summer, a flower that symbolizes never-ending love. Emma looked up and saw Jason standing in the crowd, holding the flowers and looking at her. You look beautiful today. Emma froze for a moment. She was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, with a pencil stuck in her hair, no makeup at all. And he was calling her beautiful? She accepted the flowers awkwardly. They used to be her favorite flowers. Later she stopped liking them, because Crystal was allergic to pollen. Jason had once said they couldn't keep flowers in the house. It might affect Crystal's work. There had been a time when Emma ordered a bouquet of endless summer from a flower shop, planning to surprise Jason when he got off work. She waited outside the shop to see his reaction when he came to pick it up. But Crystal showed up too. Crystal said she was allergic to pollen and was holding Jason's schedule, saying there was still a lot of work to do. The moment Jason took the flowers, Crystal fainted. Jason immediately carried her to the car and rushed her to the hospital. The bouquet of endless summer fell to the ground and was trampled. Emma stood outside the flower shop, still holding the gift she had prepared for Jason. From that day on, she never received hydrangeas again. Emma. Jason's voice pulled her back to the present. She looked up and saw him kneeling on one knee, holding a ring. Marry me. The crowd instantly fell silent, then erupted into loud cheers. People gathered around, shouting, "Say yes! Say yes!" Emma stood there, holding the bouquet of hydrangeas, looking at Jason kneeling before her. This was supposed to be the moment she had dreamed of for 7 years. Those were the words she had longed to hear. But she didn't feel happy. She didn't run to him. She didn't say yes right away. She just stood there, frozen. The bouquet slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. She bent down in a panic to pick it up. Jason stood up as well, put the ring away, helped her pick up the flowers, and handed them back to her. Then, in front of everyone, he kissed her. Emma instinctively tried to push him away, but he kissed her hard, leaving her almost no room to breathe. The crowd was cheering. She felt weak under the force of it, leaning against him as he bit her lip, the taste of blood spreading between them. Then he lifted her in his arms and carried her away through the cheering crowd. You jerk. Jason set her down on the grass, and Emma finally exploded. How could you force me like that in front of everyone? We could have talked privately, why did you have to do that? Jason stared at her, his voice even louder than hers. Yeah, I am a jerk. But what about you? Emma, you hesitated just now. Were you thinking about breaking up with me and getting together with that Luke? Emma looked at his furious face. She gently touched the corner of her lip where he had bitten it, then said calmly, Jason, I'm just myself. Whether I'm with you or with Luke, I'm still me first. That's enough. Let's end it here. We're breaking up. Jason, I'm letting you go. 7 years. She had finally let herself go too. That night, Emma returned to Maggie's place and cried in her arms for a long time. The next day, while Jason was at work, she went back to pack her things. When she walked in, she noticed a painting hanging in the living room. It was the painting from that art exhibition years ago. So Jason had been the one who bought it. The painting looked oddly out of place in the living room, just like she did. She had lived in this house for 7 years, yet she had never truly belonged there. On the table was the bouquet of endless summer, arranged in a vase by Jason. Unfortunately, the hydrangeas that symbolized eternal love had fallen to the ground twice. Love that flows in only one direction can never be eternal. It took Emma 7 years to understand that. In the days that followed, Emma threw herself completely into work. Her designs finally passed Luke and his team's relentless critiques. Luke didn't let her take it easy. From design drafts to fabric selection, from pattern making to fine adjustments, from model fittings to final production, he had her involved in every step. The process reminded Emma of when Jason had first started his business. Back then he had spotted the opportunity in women's online fashion and started an online shop by himself. That was also when he met Crystal, who was still working as a model. Emma had visited his workplace once. Inside the sweltering photo studio, Crystal kept changing outfits while Jason took photos one after another, editing them and uploading them online. At the time, Emma was busy with her graduation project and couldn't help much. By the time she finished and wanted to help him, he and Crystal were already working together seamlessly. Later, the online store became a company. Jason became Jason. Crystal became his secretary. And Emma became the one who simply belonged at home. She had told herself that Crystal was just a co-worker, that everything between them was purely professional. But the constant discomfort, and Jason's repeated indifference, slowly drained the love out of their relationship. Now Emma finally understood something. Jason would always love himself most. So when he had to choose between work and love, he chose work. And when it came to Emma or Crystal, he chose to favor the one who could help him. After the breakup, Jason started posting frequently on social media. Got a cold today. No medicine at home. Traveling alone for work today. Framed Emma's painting today. Bought a lot of flowers for the balcony. Emma sometimes wondered if he had set those posts to visible only to her. But she didn't want to think about it. Because now she had more important things in her life. 3 months later, Emma's designs became the first mainline collection of Luke's brand. Unexpectedly, they were a huge hit. The sell-through rate broke records. Emma's name began circulating in the industry. People now knew her as Emma, the designer. Not as someone's girlfriend. And that feeling was incredible. At the celebration party, Emma wore a short black skirt and tall boots, with sharp winged eyeliner and braided hair. She stood in the crowd clinking glasses with everyone, laughing boldly and freely. Then she saw Jason. He stood not far away, looking at her. His eyes lit up slightly. He walked over and sat down beside her. His gaze lingered for a long time on the jacket covering her legs, Luke's jacket. Emma, can I ask you something? Emma nodded. Do you still like me? Emma looked at him, really looked at this man. His eyes were a little red, his voice slightly hoarse. Yes, she said. Jason froze for a moment, then grabbed her shoulders excitedly. If you still like me, then, why don't we get back together? Emma shook her head. I still like you, Emma said. Just, not that much anymore. Jason fell apart. What happened? Just tell me and I'll change. I can change anything. Crystal isn't with the company anymore. I even went back to my hometown to get my household registration papers. We can get married anytime. We can move into a bigger house. I'll set up a studio just for you. You can keep painting. I'll help you create your own brand. Emma listened to him the way he used to listen to her when she talked about their future. He had planned everything beautifully. Unfortunately, that future was no longer the one she wanted. Jason, you don't need to change anything. Just stay the way you were before. Because I don't need it anymore. Jason looked at her, frowning the way he always used to. Emma smiled faintly and said softly, Jason, stop being unreasonable. According to your process, you should have already become the past. My future doesn't include you. She returned his own words to him, exactly as he had once said them to her. And with that, the story ends. There's a saying, love that comes too late is worth less than weeds. Emma spent 7 years loving someone. It also took her 7 years to learn how to love herself. Some people say the scariest thing in a relationship isn't fighting. It isn't even cheating. It's when one person has already moved on, while the other still believes they're standing in the same place. In the end, Jason finally understood something. Emma never cared about whether a lipstick belonged in the passenger seat. She didn't care whether he transferred Crystal to another department. She didn't even care whether he proposed. What she wanted was to be seen, to be valued, to have a place in his heart that belonged only to her. But he realized it too late. The cruelest thing in love isn't I don't love you anymore. It's I still love you, but I no longer need you. This is marriage is not the end. If you're in a relationship where you're constantly compromising and shrinking yourself, I hope Emma's story gives you a little courage. Before you love someone else, learn to love yourself first. See you next time.